Hey everyone, today what we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of decoupage with tissue paper. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. You can kind of see it a little bit, but for the most part they're pretty transparent. What you're going to need is, you will need your Mod Podge. I use hard coat because I like it. You can use whatever Mod Podge you have on hand or whatever Mod Podge you like the best. But I like hard coat just because I like how solid it dries, and it would also fill in any cracks or places that might try to lift up or wrinkles, and it will make it hard. So I prefer that. You also need tissue paper. There's tissue paper that you can get from Amazon, and I'll put a link for that in the comments. Or I found some tissue paper from Amazon that is actually made for your printer. It's a little bit thicker, but it doesn't seem to behave any differently when I'm using the Mod Podge, so that's good. If you're going to use regular old tissue paper, you're going to have to tape it onto a regular piece of computer paper so that it slides through your printer without getting stuck or bunching up. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a document on your computer of whatever images that you want to cut out. These are some of the images I have. Just one big piece of paper, and I printed it off. This is my tissue paper. It's a little bit thicker than normal tissue paper. And you'll print it out on your computer. Now, if you have a laser computer, that's all you need to do. The ink will stick and it'll become permanent. Now, if you have an inkjet printer like I do, once you're done printing this out and once the ink is dry, you're going to need to spray at least one, but I prefer 2 coats of clear spray or sealer on top of this. Just a real light dusting of spray so that it seals in the color. If you do not do this, the minute you put your Mod Podge on these, the color is just gonna smear all over the place. So, we need to cut it out, and I have one sort of cut out. But you're gonna want to cut it out pretty close. Now, if it's got a big background, you can cut out all the background stuff. But I found that it's easier to do the smaller it is. Less wrinkles this way. Now, you will get wrinkles. There is almost no way to not have wrinkles. It's just the way that tissue paper behaves. So don't worry too much about it. The other thing that you will need is you're going to need something flat to press down your tissue paper with. Either a credit card. I am going to use a palette knife. Hopefully it's not too sharp. It doesn't rip it. Or I do believe that Mod Podge has some little squeegee type tools that they sell, and those will work as well. You can use a sponge for this, or you can use a paintbrush. Either way, it doesn't matter. So what we're gonna do is, I have my rocket base coated. I gessoed it just for my own peace of mind, and then I just painted it white so that it's easier to see. You can paint it any color, but be mindful that tissue paper is see-through. So you're gonna see through any color on the actual image. It'll come through. So if you don't want like a bright yellow to come through on his skin or his sweater, then you probably want to keep it a white base coat. So you're gonna put a little bit of Mod Podge right where you want your tissue paper to be. And then we're gonna just stick them on. Now, he's not gonna wanna stick right away. He's gonna wanna curl. That's just the nature of this paper. Your tissue paper is gonna be a little bit thinner, so it might work a little better than this. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure we get out any wrinkles and any bubbles by goes down, just like this. And if you need a little bit of extra, you just put a little extra on here. Pretty simple. So once you get it to stick, which may take a few minutes to get this to stick, you're going to start getting some wrinkles. You see? Starting to get some wrinkles. You're just going to have to rub those out. And then we're going to let it dry. I'm going to let this layer dry completely, the layer underneath. If you go ahead and put another layer of Mod Podge right on top of this one, it's going to wrinkle even more. You could also get some bubbling. You see how this wants to pull up right here? If you immediately put Mod Podge on top of this, you're going to get more bubbling. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an example. I made this mistake, and I don't know if you can tell. No, you can't really tell. But his whole nose here does not stick down. I am going to have to poke a hole in his nose, put some glue in there, and push it back down, and there's gonna be wrinkles. See, there's already one wrinkle right here because I was impatient. So that's it. I will be back in just a second to show you, once this is dry, how to do your second layer. Okay, so now we have our image secured to our rock. Like I said, you're gonna have some wrinkles. That's the nature of tissue paper. That's just the way that it is, and that's okay. It gives it character. It's cute. As long as your edges are sealed, it should be just fine. Speaking of sealing edges, that is what we're going to do now. We are going to do round 2. Wash my brush off. Getting all the water out of here, sorry. Okay, I'm going to go back into my Mod Podge, and we don't need a lot, just a real thin layer. If you get too aggressive, what's going to happen is this transfer is going to end up trying to wrinkle again. It's going to get too wet, and it's going to shrink. It's going to wrinkle. You can see here, got a little too wet, got a little too aggressive with it, and it wrinkled here and here. I mean, is it the end of the world? No, it just doesn't look as nice. See, right here, wrinkled as well. So just be careful with it, and just one thin layer at a time. And you're gonna do this twice. Once over the entire image is what I'm going to do now. And then the second time you're going to do this after it dries, you're just going to do the edges. And I'll show you how to do that. You're going to actually go in here like this and pull it against the edge. If there's any bubbles, if there's any lifting at all, what it's going to do is it's going to fill in those holes. Especially with the hard coat, it'll fill in those holes, and it'll make it nice and solid, so that if there was an oopsie and we didn't get it as secure as we thought we did, there's a safeguard for it. See if I have an example of it. I do. This one's not quite dry yet, but as you see the sticker that I have, if your tissue paper starts coming up like this did here, you see how this started to lift? And now I'd already sealed this and I didn't catch this ahead of time. But if your tissue paper, or if your stickers for that matter, try to do that, fill that in with your Mod Podge hard coat so that it's not smooth, but it's filled in and it's not going to lift. You can see my finger doesn't catch it. So once this dries, it's not all the way dry, it's going to create a barrier from this being able to lift up. And then a couple of layers of sealant on top of this, and this will be nice and secure. Same thing with your tissue paper. If you've got any little wrinkles that want to try to lift up on the sides, you just fill those in and seal them off, and they'll be nice and secure. Now, if you can see, too much Mod Podge, look what it's doing. It's trying to wrinkle again. So be real careful not to put too much. One very thin layer at a time. You can always try to smooth it out again and see if that helps. Don't get too aggressive with it, because what is going to happen, you're going to start losing the image. You're going to start scratching the image off. And we don't want that. Or you could start scratching the paint off on this side. This is probably not the best tool to use. It's just what I have on hand. I would use a credit card or one of those little squeegee things that Mod Podge sells, or a specialized tool for decoupage. This is a little bit too sharp, and it wants to actually rub too much off of it. But, you know, I work with what I got. And that's it. That's really it. You just wait for it to dry. Now, a big thing also, do not use a heat gun or a blow dryer. Just be patient. If you use a heat gun or a blow dryer on this, what's going to happen is it's going to try to shrink. It's going to try to wrinkle even more. It's going to try to move. It's going to bubble up. We don't want that. We want all the layers to dry at the same time. We don't want like the layer underneath to dry before the outside edges do, or else the outside edges are going to want to curl. So just be patient. I know it's hard, but try to be patient and try to let it dry completely before adding another layer. And don't use your trusty heat gun. I know you want to, but resist. Once it's dry though, you can add paint to it. This one here, I added some sponging around the edges just to give it a little pop of color. I'll probably do the exact same thing with this one because his little sweater is red, and also because the background is off-white versus white. So what I will probably do is I will probably take my white color and paint it around the very edges here so that this background color here is the same as this one here. And then I'll probably sponge some of this in. I did it on this one as well. Let me see if I can do it without messing my camera up too bad here. I did it on this one too. Now, again, it got too wet, so look what happened. It tried to bubble up. And this is the one where I learned, don't use your heat gun, because this can happen. It's gonna bubble up. See right here? It just doesn't look very attractive. So I tried to use my heat gun to make it dry faster so I can paint it, and it just was a little bit of a disaster. But you can paint over these to match your background color to your transfer color or your decoupage color. So once this is all nice and dry and hard with the Mod Podge, you can put anything you want over it. You can put sparkle over it. I have sparkle over this one. I just used a little bit of hologram glitter. Whatever you want to do. But don't forget, once everything is completely dry, this isn't sealed. Mod Podge is not a sealer. Mod Podge is a glue. Mod Podge is for decoupage. It is not for sealing rocks for outdoor use. It is water-based. So if this gets left out in the rain or in the snow, it's going to become a pile of goo. And we don't want gooey rocks. So make sure you spray it with a clear coat spray or a Duraclear. This is what I have right now. It doesn't have to be exactly this one, but I like this one. Non-yellowing, fast drying. Fumes are pretty bad, but I do this outside or in my garage and it's fine. In the wintertime, I've been using the Duraclear, and the Duraclear has been just fine. This works just as well. So there you go, guys. I'll post a finished picture after I'm completely done with this at the end of this video so that you can see what it looks like when it's all completed.